Hey folks, we're wrapping up Education Week for Unreal Engine, which features loads of career tips, learning resources, project breakdowns, exclusive interviews, and more. And to help celebrate the fantastic work of students around the world, we've shared the Fall 2021 Unreal Student Showcase. Watch the complete video and see the full range of their talent on the Unreal Engine YouTube channel. As part of the Education Week festivities, we've put together a great selection of assets to help make teaching game design more engaging. But they're free for everyone. Act quickly, as many of them are only available through November 1st. Claim these frameworks, pickup sets, dialogue systems, and more on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. Are you interested in creating immersive worlds for films and games? What about helping surgeons learn how to operate or informing the design of new cities? If the answer is yes, then becoming an environment artist may be a great path for you. Find out what this role entails and what skills will help you succeed on the Unreal Engine feed. From film and television to architecture, the demand for real-time experts outside the gaming industry is growing rapidly. At the Savannah College of Art and Design, or SCAD, they're preparing students for the shift by including Unreal Engine in their curriculum. Learn more about their programs in their spotlight on the blog. If you're an educator that's ready to learn how to start incorporating interactive 3D into your classroom, we have a brand new course that serves as a great primer. From navigating the UI to understanding blueprints, pop over to the Unreal Online Learning portal to get ready to prepare your students for the real-time job market. Have you wondered how to design a curriculum around the use of virtual production to change the way we tell stories? We asked experts from Digital Domain, Framestore, SCAD, CERT, and more to weigh in on the tech and techniques needed to train the next generation of VP artists. Uncover their insights and all the other Education Week activities on the Unreal Engine feed. Cloud deployment increases the accessibility of complex applications and enables expansive new applications that cannot run directly on user devices. Containers, a cloud-native technology supported by Unreal Engine, can encapsulate an application for easy, efficient deployment. Find out how they can help you in our latest white paper, Cloud Solutions Exploring the Power of Containers. Inspired by Russian and Icelandic folklore, solo developer Alex Goodwin created a rich world to explore the story of an old man's journey to heal his wounded soul. The story, haunting music, and post-impressionistic art style aim to deliver a memorable experience. Venture to our developer interview with Goodwin to learn about his path into game development and how he's made his concept a reality. And now over to this week's top karma earners. Many thanks to Clockwork Ocean, Tsumi Saki, Every Nun, Alex Dixon 92, Devin Sherry, Splodgenald, Caption Hook, Healy, Optical Shadows, and Ray Lear. With catchy songs, wacky weapons, and egg-coated enemies, family-run game studio Foul Robot Army has announced their new game, Party Poppin' Robot Stompin'. Blast egg-headed robots to smithereens and reignite the party on the planet. Support Party Poppin' Robot Stompin' over on Kickstarter and stay up to date with the latest developments in the Candyverse. Explore an emotional story of survival, fear, love, life, and purpose in A Forever Solitude from solo dev David Fazio. Solve puzzles, unlock mysteries, and determine your fate in a brutal yet beautiful world. Wishlist of Forever Solitude on Steam. Taking home the Puppeteer modifier in the 2021 Epic Mega Jam was Reclaim the Kingdom. Navigate and fight your way through a world full of devious enemies and defeat them by picking up floor tiles and using them as deadly projectiles. But you need to take great care, as each time you remove a floor tile, you give yourself one less to stand on, and you may find yourself running out of space. Check out the incredible project on itch.io. Thanks for watching this week's news and community spotlight. Hi, and welcome to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I'm your host, Amanda, and for Education Week, we have a packed show. We're really excited to, welcome Dr. Christopher Alexander, the video games professor at the Creative School. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And we have our technical program manager, Tom Shannon.
Howdy.
and our Education Program Manager, Steve Isaacs.
Good to be here.
So welcome all. We're excited to have you. This week we're going to talk about how game engines are being used more than in the world of just gaming. So, whether you're into architecture or film or fashion or any number of industries, real-time skills are relevant to you in a very, very real way. And these industries are also having a talent problem, right? They need more people that have these skills. And so Chris is going to talk about what that means for you and how you can use Unreal Engine as a jumping off point for not only game development, but in those other industries. But before we get there, we're really, really excited to debut the Fall 2021 Unreal Student Showcase, showcasing loads of great student talent. So let's kick that off. So round of applause for all those projects.
I just want to apologize, folks, for you watching at home right now. That was a technical error. Those were not actually student projects. Those were made by industry professionals. So do you guys have the real clip that we can show?
They were students.
You're lying.
They were incredible student projects.
Okay.
We have documentation.
You got documentation? Okay, you got it. Listen, folks, what you're seeing right now is not the future, the present of what can be done in the Unreal Engine. And that leads me to the talk of the day. Let's get this party started. We are today talking about using the Unreal Engine as a canvas, seeing the Unreal Engine as a canvas, as a tool, and as a playground. We're talking about the many shades of real time. All right, let's get it started. What are we going to talk about? Well, first, I'll give you a brief introduction, kind of giving you a reason as to why you should listen to this guy in the first place. Then we're going to talk about for education, how education involves being engaging and enrapturing, and how the Unreal Engine affords you that ability. Then we're going to talk about how the Unreal Engine provides exceptional without exception. Everybody can be involved. And lastly, we'll talk about exportable modern skills, present day skills that apply to you. Hold on a second. I was supposed to be picturing. Give me a second. There we are. Now you know who's talking. All right, let's get this party started. Sorry. It's me. I'm still here. Okay, first, who am I? Don't worry, we'll get into that. They call me, I'm known as the professor of video games, but what on earth does that mean? Let's switch back here for a brief moment. So they call me the video games professor, and to contextualize, let me explain what that means. I usually break my work up into 3 core areas. The first one, take a look down here, is video game design, how we create, shape, and make an experience for at least one person other than ourselves. The second area is esports production. All these on-screen prompts that you're seeing right now, we teach classes on how this gets done, more on that if you have any questions. Oh, by the way, feel free to chime in at any point in time during the talk with questions. We're here for you. And lastly, collegiate esport infrastructure. We build the places for community to come together, enjoy, support, and play games. All right. Now, you might be asking, how on earth do all these things relate? Well, I often tell my students that video games connect to every single industry, every single one. And I have some examples. When we're looking at video game design, I like to tell the story of art. When we're looking at art, we're looking at history. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the games that we have and we use and we see and we play, rather, involve live history, actual real life history. All right. The second one there, you're looking at that building. We're looking at architecture. I don't know if you've seen buildings in video games. A lot of them are real or modeled after something in real life, which moves us to that last icon over there, which you're looking at: computer science, the physics, the frustum, all of those things embedded within the video games industry are teaching you the maths and the physics that you need in order to function both in the real world and in the interactive 3D space. We're looking at esports production. We're looking at things like on-air broadcasting and hosting, which, that skill is exportable many places. Then we've got fashion. I don't know if y'all saw what happened in Fortnite this year. And the different things you can purchase in Fortnite, but you see the crossover between fashion and video games, or also interactive 3D spaces. Lastly, you have broadcasting. Those messages, the different communities we can broadcast to, have expanded over time. And it's important that we look at the skill set related to the video game playing. And that's kind of what we want to focus on today. What exists outside of the mere playing of video games? We're looking at esports infrastructure. Obviously, nothing happens successfully in the video games community without community involvement. So that's the three core areas of what brings me here today. And you might be asking, is that all? Hold on a second. Let's take a look. I work in a research lab at the Creative School called the Conduit Research Lab, where we focus on the legitimization of video games and esports through creative content production, academic publication, and facility construction. Now, before I move to the heart of the matter, take a look at some of these things. All right. So I've got over 30 years of experience as a player, as a parent, and as a professional in the video game sphere, connected to several industry members, including Epic, Ubisoft, Gameloft. Some of y'all might remember me from Wisecrack, and Stitch Media. And here's a fun one. I'm a Red Bull supported scholar and content creator. And what that means is, part of what we do at the Creative School, we are working on, it's been announced now so I can talk about it, a Red Bull gaming lab, which is going to be a state-of-the-art broadcast facility where students are going to learn this production tech that you see on screen right now, as well as how to get themselves out there. I'm an international speaker. Well, we're internationally speaking right now, an educational ambassador. I feel that the components of fun in the classroom and engagement can be imbued in the way that we present ourselves online, as you can see us doing right now. Lastly, I myself am also a game designer. I'm working on 2 titles right now. The first one is Bearable. It's a game about family life and happiness, and it involves you playing as a black bear. That's all I can say. And the second one, which is a typing simulator called Hibernation, prototype name, like dolphin. So that's all I wanted to say for now. Let's get started with education and how it can become engaging and enrapturing via the Unreal Engine. And remember, today I want you to remember we're looking at 3 perspectives. Why don't I transition now so y'all can see who's talking? There we go. You see those 3 icons right there? Canvas, tool, and playground. Okay, we're going to weave in and out of all of those during this talk. All right, so let's get this party started. Now, here's an opening question. How can games and real-time 3D technology bring about positive change in society? Let's see. The answer. We got some stories for you folks. We got the chance to interview some fabulous people, and they told us their stories about how they're integrating the Unreal Engine in their classrooms as part of instruction. Let's take a look at that example right now. We are going to bring you Nick Pant, okay? Nick Pant, a fantastic individual. I hope you're watching, Nick. It's great to have met you and connected with you. He teaches women's history and African-American history, geographic information analyst. He indulges in project-based learning. Now, when I tell you about this project, please believe you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, I didn't know you could do that. And he uses the Unreal Engine in social studies. Remember what I just said. It's not a programming class. It's not a coding class. He uses the Unreal Engine in social studies. I'm gonna play a clip of that for you in a mere moment, but I just wanted you to see the different types of uses of the Unreal Engine. Remember, canvas, construction, tool, assistive tool, and playground for us and our students to play in. So I've got an example. Take a look over here Transitioning. Well, I think I already have it up here. Yeah, I do. Oh, he's ready to go, folks. Tell me if you can hear it.
Hi, my name is Cameron Vaught, and welcome to this video featuring my American History Museum. So let's get right into it. Here I have 3 exhibits featured, which is the Women's History Museum, the Industrialization and Progressivism Era exhibit, and the African American exhibit. We're going to get right into it with the Women's History. So here I just designed it with some quotes on the walls that I feel mean a lot to what women's history was and is, by Shirley Chisholm and Alice Paul, 2 very influential people of the time with women's right and suffrage. And we'll start with the Cult of True Womanhood. You walk in, you can just press E and learn a little bit about the Cult of True Womanhood. They had qualities in the 1800s of submissiveness, purity, piety, and domesticity. They were basically required for a woman. She'd have to be happy to stay at home and cook and clean. And she didn't really, do that much outside of the home. She stayed in the private sphere. But eventually, women became kind of sick of this, and they wanted a little bit more. So we'll go into the next exhibit. Here again, you can just see a picture of Alice Paul. And eventually, women started to get together because they were only really allowed to spend time with other women. And they decided they had enough. So one night, they talked to their husbands, and they said, we want to be able to vote and have a place outside of the private sphere. So again, you can pause the video and take a look at what I wrote. But people like Alice Paul and Susan B. Anthony stood up for women's suffrage. The next exhibit, talking about wartime. Women's suffrage was gained in 1921, and soon afterwards, movements like Flappers came.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to note here, this is made by students, okay? Nick Pant challenged the students to build museums, and they went on their own to research the material and build the museum themselves. Do you understand? This is an example of the unreal as both a canvas and a tool, because the medium itself was used to present student ideas that they themselves configured in their own way. Transitioning one more time. Here we go. So, oh, did I mention that this was a grade 9 class, folks? Grade 9! Grade 9 students building their own museums. Exportable skills for the present. Okay, here's what I want to tell you. Nick Pant. This is a quote from Nick, okay, from using in this specific project that you just saw. One of the best parts of the project is that some students don't even realize they are conducting research. They just think they are compiling artifacts for their museum. They are learning history without even knowing it because they are motivated by the technology and project. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't make this up. This is you. You should see yourself in here as both an educator and an engager with the technology. That's not all he said, though. Nick Pant also suggested that you teachers, myself included, fun fact, I'm a teacher, you run out of reasons not to use Unreal as part of instruction. Listen, talking to Nick Pant has been such a joy because oftentimes when we're looking at building pedagogy, classroom instruction, we feel this pressure. We've got to know the technology. We have to know exactly how it functions. That's not true. The Unreal Engine is for everybody. Your ability to create experiences for others is not limited to your specific knowledge of the engine itself. These students want to learn, they want to engage, but most importantly, they want to share their stories. That's the first interview, folks. Let's move on to the next one. Unless y'all have questions. Any questions in the chat? Are we good?
Keep rolling.
Okay. All right. We'll keep it moving. It's so quiet now. I feel like I'm teaching in Finland. In Finland, they don't say anything. I know that there's some students from Finland watching right now. Hello to you all. I know it's 9 p.m. All right. Let's move on to exceptional without exception. Remember, again, canvas, tool, and playground. All right. When we're talking about being exceptional, we're talking about carving out a space for students, again, to tell their own stories, be who they want to be within the context of their own educational lives, but the different stories they want to share with other people. Let's take a look at our next example. I'm so amped up. Here's a question. Can game engine and real-time technology include more engaging stories, a diverse array of stories? Yo, the answer I have for you right now is one of the greatest instructors of all time I had the pleasure to meet. The answer here is engaging virtual reality. I don't know if you're going to say something, Tom Shannon, or if you're laughing, or both. So let me tell you a story about this fantastic human being right here that I'm just going to go out and say it right now. I wish Koina was my teacher growing up. Let's introduce Koina right here, yo. And those of you who met her, you know, Koina, I hope you're watching right now, girl. You are fantastic. I said it to your face. I'm saying it right now. Okay. So Koina Freeman, no joke, okay? A master of technical design for theater. She walks everything she talks about. She's a graphic artist, virtual production filmmaker, and fellow. And she uses the Unreal Engine for filmmaking and XR storytelling. All right. Now, that screenshot you just saw is from the film that she put together herself. Yo, you know what? That's enough talk. Why don't I just show you an example of engaging virtual reality featuring Koina's film, Salvage. Oh, where am I? I'm at oh yeah. Let's go right to the 11-second mark. Boom. We're going to go right there. Transitioning. I know y'all can't see it yet. Just give me a moment, yo. All right. Here we go. You're going to be like, yo, Chris, we can't see. Pow. You can see this. Here we go.
That's good stuff.
Now okay, let me just watch this.
Captain, ready. On the fields, copy. Captain. Come in.
I need you to understand every angle, every shot was cultivated and crafted by Koina. This is what she teaches as part of her instruction. The way that camera moves, the placement of the smoke. Watch the spark on the top right in a moment. Right before the camera cuts. Ew, see that? She programmed that, yo. Every little detail. Okay. That camera moving forward. Slow pan down and tracking. All of these things you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen. These are not accidents. Intentional camera cut. On action. I'm gonna keep this running. Let me keep this running while I talk. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is for everything. We're talking about filmmaking right now, right? Koina has incorporated her love of storytelling. A fun fact: she's also a horror writer. Her love for storytelling via the technology is what she announced. What is part of her practice. Now, did I mention that these are both elementary school teachers? This is what they're teaching, and high school teachers. This is what they're teaching in their classrooms. This is you. If you're an educator and you're watching this, or even a student who wants to engage in telling stories, this is what you can do. Just examples. And I know you saw the reels at the beginning. I thought those were student projects. You know I was joking. But those were made by students, just like the ones that we work with and for and serve. All right. So that was the example there. Let's transition back here. Here we go. And we'll keep this party keep the party going. All right. So here are my favorite quotes from my conversation with Koina. All right. Listen to this. She said, Unreal Engine is free. What of gatekeepers? Unreal Engine, the tool used by the professionals, is free. Ladies and gentlemen, that stuff you're seeing, everything we're showing you, if you want to get started, you can get started now. Now. You can do that now. I'm doing it. Been doing it. All right. Here's the next
This is such a big deal. That's huge. And she's right about the gatekeepers. Yeah. Like this is anyone with, an okay laptop can get this right now and start playing with Hollywood level tools and cameras and lighting and go get a MetaHuman and be playing with, a Hollywood level, assets, and then get some more from the marketplace. And, and that's anyone can start exploring that like right now.
Spectacular.
And it's so cool too that these aren't, that the reel that we watched at the beginning too was, undergraduates and graduates who have spent years dedicating themselves to learning this tool. But we're also, there's this like, maybe I can't bring it to my middle school, my elementary school, my high school. It's too much. They'll never achieve that. Well, they will. They absolutely will. But look what they can do, in the 45 minutes once a day, 5 times a week. It's astounding.
And to your point, Tom, when we look at like Nick's lesson, Nick is not he's self-proclaimed, not an expert at Unreal Engine. he, basically gave his students this opportunity to do some research, but present it in a very, very interactive, immersive way. And, the output that you just saw from Nick's projects, I mean, that is something that they were doing in a history class. So it wasn't even, a highly technical class, which is what I absolutely love.
I love it too. And I can't wait to get to both of your stories. Listen, so here's the last contextualizing quote, because listen, Steve Isaacs and Tom Shannon the Great have some fantastic stories to share. We're going to get to those. The last contextualizing quote, Kowena said, she heard one student say, I can feel that this is the future. You just heard what Tom and Steve were saying about industry level tools right now. That's where we're at, folks. That's where you can be as well. So let's move on to the next segment, which is exportable skills. We're not talking about future skills, folks. We're talking about skills in the present. See this bike shop from Lee Art Studios? Ooh, all from Unreal Engine. Okay, here's a question. What jobs can games and real-time technology connect to? Spectacular question, studio audience. Let's answer some of those questions by looking at all these. You've got fashion and performance, film and virtual production, fabrication and building, f-stops and photography, fonts and user interface development, Fortnite and fun. Let's break each one of those down and get some incredible stories from Tom Shannon and Steve Isaacs. Here we go, starting with fashion. Now, when you're looking at fashion, you're not just looking at the development of clothing to place on a stage. You're also reimagining how performances are made. For example, if a fashion show happened at the top of a mountain or in the middle of winter, all of these things can be developed and shared. Now, any stories, fellas?
I mean, when you're talking fashion, Chris, it just excites me at the fact, I don't know if people have seen our Unreal Futures projects yet, but we have, our first one, Unreal Futures Careers in Advertising, shows really how, the advertising industry is being transformed by interactive 3D and guides students through. You and I were talking about it before, Chris, with Sonali guiding kids through recreating an Oreo cookie advertisement. But coming up very soon, our next installment in the Unreal Futures, project is Unreal Futures Fashion, where we'll be learning, from fashion, industry professionals, and kids will start creating, a fashion-oriented project in Unreal Engine. And, what I really love about both of those projects is that they kind of take kids into the engine in a way that's very manageable. And kids are learning, certain things like, working with the camera, working with lighting, working with animation, and creating a full project that they can be proud of by the end of that. In fact, when we launched the Careers in Advertising project, we also had a competition on creating an Earth Day advertisement, which allowed kids to use those skills and create something pretty amazing. So really exciting to get kids to both see the industry side of it and then actually apply it and see where they could fit into that industry.
What I'm most excited about what you said there, Steve Isaacs, is the actual lesson, the Unreal Futures. I took it myself as well. Everything you're saying is accurate. But what I enjoy most about it is Sonali's approach and careful approach to onboarding if you've never used the engine before. That was my first time using it, right? And you suggested that to me. And what I enjoyed about it is there's sort of a documentary before that dispels the myth of how complex the Unreal Engine is, as dictated by technical individuals from the field. It's a documentary lesson. I highly recommend. I think it's about 3 hours long to run through it, but you can take it at your own pace, and it'll really onboard you with regard to the sequencer and how you build out a story just with camera movements, just with animating things on a table. It's brilliant, and it's an excellent, just small step into the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
And that's something else I wanted to bring up. The Unreal Engine is so many things outside of programming. I know a lot of instructors, teachers, they come to me, it's like, oh, Chris, I don't want to use the Unreal Engine because I need to code. No, you need to find out who you are within the context of the Unreal Engine. For example, I'm a level designer and I'm a game designer. I'm not a mechanics and tools programmer. I'm going to take some lessons on sound design and audio engineering because that was my former life before getting into game dev. But I'm not saying that I'm going to be an expert in blueprints or C++. That's not who I am within the context of the Unreal Engine. So I often tell educators and students, find out who you are via your superpowers within the context of the Unreal Engine. Somebody was going to say something. No? All right,
Well,
we'll keep going.
I was going to say something.
Yeah,
Before,
come on, let's go.
you know, what I appreciate that you said, Chris, is about the onboarding process, and that's something our team. So I work as the secondary education program manager, focusing on working with high schools and high school educators and students. And one of the things we noticed was so important is that the onboarding process, getting educators in there to feel like they can facilitate the learning in a classroom environment, but not necessarily be the expert. You experienced that, in that Unreal Futures activities that, you could basically, have a kid start working on that with, limited support from the educator. And that's kind of what we're striving for, is helping everybody on board and feel like they can, work within the environment. So like you had said, also, some of that might be like with Nick's pants project, most of that's about designing the level and using a template for the, for the walking through part. And you have a great project for people to experience and learn from at the end.
Spectacular. Let's move on to the next example. I'm so amped up. Okay, so we're looking at film and virtual production. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, but the Unreal Engine right now is at the crux of most high-end modern film production. Like, am I allowed to say it? The Mandalorian.
I don't know.
You know what I was going to say. Anyway, so for those of you who said, oh, I forgot, you guys can't read into my head. Like, what on earth is Chris going to say? So when we're talking about...
I knew he was going to say The Mandalorian.
I know you did, Steve. I know you did. So when we're looking at modern day film production, what of moving and relocating? You can actually build out a scene and a set using this positional and storytelling technology. Now, why that's instrumental is because, the crux of all of this is us just sharing our stories. Using the Unreal Engine to create infinite environments affords people the ability to imagine vast landscapes to tell complex stories. So again, as a canvas, you can paint whatever world you like to surround either your pedagogy or your storytelling or complex weaving of both. And it's not just that. The jobs surrounding the Unreal Engine for virtual production, right now there's a shortage. That's why you getting involved now almost helps guarantee you a position. And if you get through the Unreal Futures, there's one point in the Oreo documentary where the gentleman says something to the effect of, I'm really nervous about explaining all of this because you're literally coming for my job. In learning this, you're learning what I do in the field. To say that, to see that amount of candid, like, oh my goodness, I wish I had this when I was you. That's what's happening here, folks. So virtual production, canvas, tool, and playground. Any stories, fellas?
Well, I just want to bring up that, film virtual production, where I'm seeing just the most exciting part of it is this accessibility and the democratization of creativity through this. And, film and virtual production is one of those areas in Unreal that you can start doing without tackling programming and all of that, kind of hard stuff.
Yes.
And to set up virtual production or to explore animation in Engine is something that can be done in very low cost and gives people that normally wouldn't have access to this sort of equipment in the real world, real cameras and real lights, and they can virtually get access to it, and they can learn these techniques kind of anywhere and apply them in industry. Because, typically if you wanted to learn how to operate a traditional camera equipment, you'd need access to some very expensive equipment on a stage. And in Unreal, you can simulate so much of that and do so much of that. You see some work by like Matt Workman, who's he spent all of COVID figuring out how to do everything that he had figured out on the Hollywood stages in his house. And he documented everything and shows everyone how to do it. And, it really demonstrates that's the scalability of it and the accessibility of it.
Spectacular. Cinetracer, shout out to Mac Workman for all the work that you're doing. Call me. Just joking. You don't have my number. Okay, so let's keep it moving. All right. So now we're looking at fabrication and building. Now, I mentioned right off the top, those are real buildings, real vertices, real structures, real reflections, real lights. As a canvas, how could you tell your story? What kinds of buildings would you create? How could you put somebody in a confined space and tell a story? You could do that, but when you have such an array of tools, how could you bring these things forward? Now, it's not just that. We have Twinmotion as well, which will allow you to create, it's an architecture tool, again, also free, that you could use to build like city planning plans, for example, if you wanted to reimagine your city. $0.00, by the way. And so it allows for another method of storytelling, but also as a tool for people to practice. How high can this building actually go? What might it look like at this time of day? Or what might it look like next to this kind of building? Are we allowed to put a ridiculously high apartment building next to a townhouse, a bungalow? I don't know. Let's visualize it, see if we can make it work. So it allows you to play around and figure out different ways to build as well. And it's a different skill set. Go ahead. I heard somebody talking there. What do we got? Fabrication and building.
One thing I'll say. Well, I was just gonna say, with regard to Twinmotion, so we do a lot of training for educators, and we've been so we have like an accelerator program where educators can also with no charge learn all about our tools. And one of the coolest things is I think a lot of people don't know about Twinmotion, and when they learn about it and see what can be done with that in the educational context, that light bulb goes off, and people are using it for certainly for visualization, but also for like digital storytelling and so many other interesting things. And it's such an easy entry point to interactive 3D. So definitely check out Twinmotion if it's not on your radar.
What I will remember, if from my own looking at it, it says something like 3 clicks to build. On the site, it was talking about 3 clicks and you can build, folks. Come on. The amount of clicks that it took for you to access this, fewer clicks than that. Just try it. Just check it out. Can't mess around with it. Tom Shannon, you were going to say something?
It's downright fun to use. I mean, it's basically a video game, an architecture video game or a site planning video game. You can sculpt land, paint trees, bring in people, have them walk around, cars, and all of it just is right there. And it's all kind of sliders. And one of the cool things about it, I think, is that it really shows kind of the capability of what you can do in real time without you having to do all the technical stuff. Like can I do rain? Oh, I can, but I don't have to learn how to do the particle systems and, get the materials to look wet. You just turn on rain and you can see, oh yeah, I can. And what happens when I put lights here? And, so you can explore kind of some of the coolest features of the engine and the coolest features of what it means to work in real time and set up things in real time and tell stories in real time without really ever tackling any of the hard stuff at all. And, the install is very small too, compared to the engine. So, for computer labs and schools that might be constrained on space or download size, it can be a good alternative as well. And it really is, like Steve said, it's a great entry point. Like, once you get your hands on that, then you're going to want to do more.
The one thing I spent way too much time doing in Twinmotion was doing pull focus on pigeons. You guys know about those pigeons? You see the pigeons in the Unreal? It's spectacular, man. I just kept on moving. It's fascinating. When it's going to move its head, it's crazy. Check out the pigeons, folks. I can't make this stuff up. Go see it. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. All right. And those of you in the
chat, we'll have you back on to give a pigeon demo.
I would love nothing more. Thank you. All right. Let's keep it moving, folks. Now we're talking about f-stops and photography. Now, the brilliant thing about this is that there are such incredible composition tools inside of the Unreal Engine that will allow you to experiment with how to bring stills to life in a different way. What do I mean? Remember when I told you that you can move the camera anywhere? It means you can establish these shots, pun intended, establishing shot. I don't know if y'all heard what I did there. You can establish these shots that are so unique that people be like, yo, how did they shoot that? You have the ability to do that. And in some, well, you can adjust the lens, you can adjust the focus of the cameras, so you can start messing around with depth of field. And if you have, let's say you're taking your metahuman out into the forest and you want to create a little bit of depth, you can add trees in the background and foreground, compose your shot. I'll give you a tutorial how to do this next time. But when you compose your shot, you can literally just bring a tree just in front of your shot, add focus or not, and then compose your shot there. So I just also wanted to say those skills that are connected to photography via the f-stop are also portable and exportable from the Unreal Engine. Play around. You can set up lights, light refraction. You can set up windows and mirrors, all of the things you can do to beta test what it is you would do in real life, or you could just shoot in engine. I know students who have built machinima style motion capture documentaries, Jamie Hercombe, that are incredibly well detailed and composed and shot all by one individual. I'm telling you folks, now is the time. Your greatest resource right now, time. If you have the time, get involved. Any stories about camera tech inside of the Unreal Engine? Amanda Shade?
Not at the moment. I think we're just fully engrossed in all the information you have to share with us.
Okay, got you covered. All right. I was like, yo, are they falling asleep? Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is fonts and user interface. I don't know if you know this. Video games have had a huge influence on cell phone UI, modern operating system UI, and a lot of the tech, wait for it, comes from video games and interactive experiences, where we've tested with users what their eyes gravitate towards, what their fingers and their gestures gravitate towards. We can pilot test these things here. But what's beautiful about interactive 3D spaces is this idea of being able to, just in time, bring up the appropriate information, location-specific information, for example. So you've got people from graphic design who spend their time transforming into user interface designers because, similar theory, 3D and interactive space. I don't necessarily have to put everything on screen at the same time. I can progressively have the UI come in as the user moves or scrolls forward in a dynamic way that's maybe cast based on light and or shadow. Or I can have the UI show up in a shadow. All of these things, you could just do them. Gotta take some time to learn it, obviously, but you can do them. If you can think it, you can create it. Now, right? Are there any stories about fonts and user interface? Oh, Steve, you said he had something here, right? Oh,
about fonts and no. Fortnite. I'll talk about Fortnite.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's got Fortnite. I've got fonts. No, I could talk to you. I could talk to you a little bit about that, because this is something that is an emerging career field in all of these career fields that Unreal is reaching into, because now you've got automotive folks, advertising folks, fashion folks trying to do stuff in the metaverse and Fortnite in Unreal on the web. And now they need to create this interface. They need to engage people. They can make it look pretty. They need to engage it. And so this is an emerging field in research, in postgraduate research. I'm seeing a lot of research into these new user interfaces, and a lot of really future thinking thought about, like, wearable interfaces and AI interactions, where the AI is looking at our smallest movements and assuming what we're going to do. And they're exploring this through virtual spaces in Unreal, because they can, at almost no cost, set this up and explore in these areas and do this research.
Brilliant. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, let's move on. I love how tech, they're rolling with my presentations and transitions. I like that. Look at that. Ew, that was good. Okay, now we're going to talk about Fortnite and Foot. Now, what's interesting about this particular area is I'm mentioning Fortnite at the end. A lot of times people are thinking Unreal game engine only. No, we want to dispel those myths. The Unreal Engine is for interactive experiences for one person at least other than yourself. Sometimes it can include fun. And as an educator myself, I feel that it should, but that might not be your philosophy, right? Let's say you're trying to teach physics or probability distribution. Isn't it possible that you can show the actual numbers for probability distribution in the sky while an example of it is happening in real time in front of users only as they approach it, narrated by you, this may be something that I'm working on in the classroom. Uh-oh, I already said too much. But
Like, this sounds
these are the
awfully
types
specific.
Sorry, say that again?
So this sounds awfully specific.
It does. But these are the types of things you can dream up when you have infinite space to play with. Now, this is actually a snippet from Fortnite Creator, which I don't know if many of you know about this. Steve Isaac's is going to take this to another level, but basically it's a place and a space for you and or your students to create experiences for others to engage with and enjoy. Steve Isaacs, over to you.
Yeah, I'm just super excited about Fortnite Creative and the possibilities. That sandbox environment allows kids to be content creators, and in a classroom environment, that could mean so many different things. Basically, when we give kids an opportunity to to demonstrate their learning or to meet learning objectives, but in a creative space, especially one that they're familiar with and already know and love, I mean, that's right there just pretty awesome. And one of the other cool things is, we often talk about this like low floor, high ceiling idea of using a tool like Fortnite Creative. Getting in there and building with prefabs and other elements like the gallery items and such, real easy to create a space, create an immersive experience. But when you start bringing in things, that allow for automation, like the sequencer and like the radio channels and such, in order to automate functions and start working with conditional statements, you go far beyond in terms of, even getting into computer science. And we have a series of lessons in Fortnite Creative that were for last year's Hour of Code that teach kids game design and computer science concepts. And beyond that, kind of along what Chris was sharing before about how like Nick uses Unreal in history, we have a variety of lesson plans that teachers are using for Fortnite Creative, including history and science with physics and such. One that I love is having kids create a Rube Goldberg machine in Fortnite Creative, and it just goes on and on. We open up this whole world for kids, to be creators, and that's so exciting to me.
Ooh, the chat going nuts right now. I see people on LinkedIn sending me messages. Thank you, y'all are the best. Okay, let's move on. The last question: can Unreal Engine be used to not make games? All right, this is a long answer. Get ready. Yes, it can. Hold on a second. Who made this
I'm
image?
shocked.
Tell them about this image and the answer, this long-winded answer to this question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it can be. I think it's the one thing we almost haven't talked about is how to make games with it. Because, I think that's kind of well-treaded territory. And often it carries with it this kind of anxiety. Games are complicated. Games take a lot of work. They require like all sorts of things that happen at once. All of these things that we just talked about. And then you need animation and characters and special effects and all that other stuff to throw in there as well. So games are kind of like the end expression where you can take all of this technology and pack it together into this one experience that not only does someone experience, but they actually are in that. And so, all of these things that you do around it take the experience of playing games, the personal experience. When you make something interactive, everyone that plays it a slightly different way, and they experience it a different way. It becomes personal to them. And you once you take all of that, you can then put it together and make a game or a movie or whatever. But it's what's really exciting is all the stuff that's outside of the making of games. Is
I love it.
That's just one avenue of creativity,
I love it. And what I really enjoy,
so many tools too.
Thank you for that. What I really enjoy is sometimes when I listen to Tom Shannon talk, when he talks about players and their level of engagement, I start to forget, is this guy talking about players or students? And then you realize, it's the same population. You have humans that want to engage with material to learn. You're always learning something in video games. We'll get to that. All right. Let's go.
Mhm.
Now, to summarize, we want you to look at the Unreal Engine as a playground for creation, as a canvas for exploration, as a tool for storytelling, but also as an assistive tool for different learning styles. Some people like the hands-on stuff. Some people like the, hey, yo, just point me to the tutorial. They might not say yo. And I'll deal with it on my own time. For the content creator and user interface aficionado, and as a consumer, as a tool for consumers for engagement. All right. These are the different ways we want you to look at this. If you can, hold on. I think I have to transition. Let's see. I do. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. That's the end of the presentation. Do y'all have any questions?
We don't have a whole lot of questions right now, so if chat you think of something, please go ahead and drop it in, and we will be happy to answer it as a crowd. But I do think one of the exciting elements of this, right, like despite that there will be specific sub-skills you'll need to know for each industry or approaches, you can bring a lot of the skills. Like if you're developing for games, you're also developing a skill set if you want to transition into film or transition into other industries. So while you can learn something and it may be specific to how you approach a game, you can transfer those skills over to these other industries, and it makes you a much more versatile worker or have a career path where you kind of actually get to explore all kinds of different industries. We see that all the time in games. People come from aerospace or hobbyists like web devs or any number of things, and we're seeing that the other way too. It's like, oh, well, I started in games and now I'm actually moving into film, or hey, I'm getting into fashion, or all those things, and it's awesome.
Amazing. Any other questions,
Chris,
comments, or concerns?
I've got a question for you.
For me, let's go.
Where do your students go? Where do you see your students going these days? When they learn these skills and they go out there and they start creating their own stuff, or people hire them to create stuff, where are they going?
So what I often teach my students, it's about what they do, what they can do. And when you talk about the properties of what you can do, that can bring you anywhere. If I composed this shot, yes, in the Unreal Engine, but I composed this shot. Yo, what were you thinking? Ooh, you got to talk about what you did. So we got students that are getting hired at video game companies, startup video game companies, at broadcasting companies like Red Bull. And it's a spectacular sort of funnel to learn real world skills inside of the Unreal Engine that are exportable. So starting next year, when we have students that are prototyping their shows, we're going to have them prototype it in the Unreal Engine. Show me what it would look like. Show me what camera angles you would use. Match your storyboard to what you're doing here, because you can do it so quickly. So as I mentioned, video games connect to every single industry, and they're going to things like project management. They're going into things like the culinary arts. They're going into things like show running and producing. It's wherever they want to go, and it's relative to their superpowers. That's what's very I have to make sure I say that, because we have 3D graphic artists, we have UI artists. They're all going where they want to go within the context of their own lives via the Unreal Engine. I hope that answers your question.
No, that's key insight. It's because it is so broad that you really do get to. It's a unique opportunity, I think, in careers these days, is that creative students get to decide what they want to focus on, and there is likely a career for them that will reward that kind of thinking, because there are so many careers. There is, so much opportunity. And it really is, it is fascinating to see how educators outside of kind of the education to career spectrum that I typically look at. So Steve looks at kind of the secondary, and I look at the post-secondary a lot, is in the secondary, where it really is about using the tool to teach rather than teaching the tool. In the secondary, it's really, I'm learning this tool to go get a job in that tool. Whereas in middle school, it's not so much about that. It's really about using the tool as a teaching methodology, and I think that that's really interesting, and we're really at just the very beginning of that idea. So it'll be interesting to see where that grows in the next 5-10 years, especially as we've been pushed forward with COVID and kind of where students, today's students, especially at that age, live in a very different mind space than I think most students before them, and have a certain set of skills that I'm really curious to see how that applies when they
Spectacular.
Go through this process and enter the job market.
Spectacular.
And
One of the things. Oh, go ahead, Steve Isaacs. Go ahead.
Well, I was just, to what Tom's saying to it, and to your credit, Chris, I think a lot of it is about creating a space where kids can find, when I was in the classroom, I came to find my mission was to help kids, find and nurture their passion. And when we take a tool that, like you say, has so many potential areas or so many different paths you can go down, and we allow kids to do that exploration and figure that out, that's when that can happen. So, I think it's about exposure. It's about exploration. It's about, putting a lot of the learning in the kids' hands and
Yep.
kind of trusting that when they get excited about something, they'll learn, at a different kind of pace and, with a different vigor.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I like to do when I'm talking to educators and parents for that matter is you can dispel all these myths about video games and video game technology by telling them this. Oftentimes when people are saying things not necessarily favorable about video games, they're generally only talking about two things: the playing of video games and parenting. And when you take those two things out of the way, you can see the breadth of the industry. You just take out parenting and playing, because playing is only one perspective of the entire industry. Engaging with it, engaging with the process of getting somebody to engage in an activity, that's not a simple skill. It's not a simple skill. So when you are entering this space, think about it in terms of how can I help somebody else get what's in here across via something else. And once you start answering that question, it's a fantastic rabbit hole, because you learn more about yourself in terms of, what do I actually want to express about myself and explain to somebody else? It's spectacular. It's spectacular.
Yeah, I see one of the questions that I'd love to address. It said, can you use GeForce Now, technology with Unreal Engine? And interestingly, I don't believe that you could use, I don't think you could run Unreal Engine using GeForce Now. You actually can, and we have a number of teachers who have been using Fortnite through GeForce Now, which has alleviated some of the challenges in the school environment. But we are, Tom and I are so super committed to figuring out, ways to reduce the barrier to entry. And that could come in a number of forms. One could be, helping IT departments in schools to get Unreal Engine installed in a way that, kind of allows people to use it without the launcher or what have you. Another thing is the possibility, and we've been exploring this in a lot of different ways, of using essentially like a virtual machine solution, which is essentially what you're asking about GeForce Now, but there are other ways to do that. So that's a really great question, and one that is so top of mind for us. So thanks for raising that.
Someone had, I thought, a really fascinating question. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. It's not necessarily about Unreal Engine use specifically, but how Todd Kleinhans was asking, there's a lot of findings around like memory and comprehension in regards to like actual note taking, like handwritten notes. And so do we have any science at this point around like what it means to build something digitally, and what is the retention or the comprehension of subjects as you're exploring them interactively versus through physical note taking?
Oh, that's a spectacular question. I do dabble in that a little bit. It was a little bit of the crux of my dissertation, but not with regard to note taking. In fact, I looked at the three core areas of the way that humans engage with information. It's via audio, text, and video. And all of the studies suggest that when you have two or more of those, learning gains are higher. For example, in my own case, I was terrible in school until third year of university, when my teacher started posting all of the readings as PDFs online. Then I found a program called Text Aloud, which converts text into voice. And then I started listening to my readings on the way to school. Suddenly, because fun fact, I'm a classically trained pianist, suddenly I was memorizing paragraphs and answering with specific, oh, and then they said this, and then they said this, because that's the way that I learned. So there might be something to be said about note taking, but I've learned through my own research, and the crux of my dissertation is video games teach better than any other medium because they not only contain text, audio, and video, but they also afford autonomy via interactivity. So yeah, I see where you're going with note taking, but I believe that it's probably relative to individual. And if they want to take notes, they can, or they can learn how to afford their users the ability to take notes inside a game, pull up an on-screen keyboard, and or use a stylus to input into the engine. Totally doable. I hope that answers your question.
That's great. Let's see.
Oh yeah, the other, I guess.
Oh, go ahead.
In terms of note taking for myself, when I'm in the classroom or I'm trying to take notes, I can use Google Docs, and there's a voice memo option where I like to say, like, I'm writing the script for my video game, and I'm not good at writing out my stories as good as I am orating them. So I set up Google Docs, the voice memos, and I speak my story in. And when people are reading my script, it's like, ooh, sounds like he's saying this. Well, yep, sure am. Go ahead, Amanda Shade.
All right, next question. They were wondering, it's actually Mr. Pant is wondering from their class of game design students, what should they emphasize on a college application if they're looking to major in computer science or game design, fields of that nature?
Ooh, those are two different answers. If you're looking to specialize in computer programming and you're interested in behind the blueprint C++ structure inside of the Unreal Engine. Fun fact, I spent the last 4 years working with game programmers. If you are able to construct blueprints via C++, you can explain that to your employer. For example, I understand game engine architecture and can build different levels of an engine. Ooh, you're going to get into a program real easy. Now, when it comes to game design, that depends on the kind of games and the engine of the institution themselves. For example, I do some work out in Finland where they frequent making mobile games. So the philosophy of the game design out there is in the land of Clash of Clans and Angry Birds. You know what I'm saying? Does that answer your question? Now they're like, oh shoot, this guy. You keep asking these questions. I'll bring up references, yo. Let's go. You don't find the video games.
I'll throw one thing out again about the game design part of it too, with applications and such. There's so much to be said for the and anybody who knows me knows my favorite word in the English language is iterative. But the iterative design process and being able to speak to that, I think not only helps you in terms of understanding and being able to talk to the process of video games, but way beyond. But I think that helps kind of contextualize, your experience in going through that whole process if you're talking about the design side.
Are they saying that we answered their question, Amanda Shade, or is that all we get? Usually in the classroom,
that's it. Like, good luck. Sometimes it depends.
Well, and I'll add on to both of those is for both game design and game programming, have something someone can play, because for game artists, it's really easy to point to an ArtStation page and look at pretties, but for a programmer, it's harder to read your programming. And really, it's not so much how you write or like if you comment everything or if you use a style that's the one that they like. Really, it's how it works and does it work and does it solve a clever problem. Same for gameplay. We want to play your game and see what it's like, see what your style is, and it's so hard to express outside of that.
Yeah, I would like to think that we'll move much more towards portfolios as part of your college application, especially in areas like this, which I think they already do. Like, when it comes to art schools and all that, that's such a huge part.
Yeah,
the top art schools certainly are becoming so competitive that it is very much like an entry-level job position, a career. But there are don't be scared. There are so many amazing programs out there that are not so crazy competitive, but I do think that that's going to become more common. Especially as the tools become more accessible, the expectation that you'll have used them will become more common.
Yeah, one of the things that we were trying to help bring across, you look at, you can look at the Unreal Engine as a modern day pencil. It's a tool. How you draw with it, write with it, sketch with it, you have the ability to choose how you use it. But eventually, if grade 9 students are building museums, like, come on, man, like you saw that, what I thought was a mistake, real at the beginning. Those are students, man. That's you. You can do that. You can do that. Man Shade, over to you.
Andre would like to know, as an educational tool, where do you see some bumps in the road that sometimes need a little help, or where are students' pain points, if any, when starting to jump in? And what are the best ways to overcome those?
Well, I got to be honest, a lot of the resources are on the learn.unreal engine page. Like, they have system requirements. They have like the forums. Are you joking me? There's like a currency system for people who help out the most, man. Like, you could actually, and that's the other thing I wanted to express. Remember at my beginning slides when I was talking about community? The video game development community for me has been one of the most supportive and inclusive communities of all time. Just like most parts of the video game playing industry, despite what people might have you think. And nobody, when you go in and say, hey, I'm having a trouble with installing or figuring out how this blueprint works, nobody says, get out of here. It's not the same kind of community as you're hearing about on the internet. We want to share, because many of us, even though we like to pretend that we're not teachers, if you're answering any question that somebody else has about the Unreal Engine, you're teaching. So those are resources, number one. Number two, when you're looking at road bumps for yourself, listen, you cannot watch videos of going to the gym and then go outside and be buff. You got to do the reps.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
You can't do it. You can't watch a video of somebody making lasagna and then be like, oh, I know what temperature they baked it at. Nah, you got to try. Every day, whenever you can, you got to put in the reps. Despite what the quick videos are telling you, not this one, it's going to take time. You got to put in your reps. And you'll see, once you acquire those skills, they don't go away. They don't go away. Once you learn how to do camera movement in the sequencer, that's not going away. You're going to do it. So, and then for the students, they'll come to you with questions. Let's find out. And one of the best things you can do as an educator is just admit that you don't know everything. I don't know everything. Who knows how to do everything in every program? Nobody does. And that's the beautiful thing about this medium. You know what? I don't know everything, but I'm willing to go in excitedly because I don't put that pressure on myself to know everything. Like coding, for example, like building 3D models. I don't have to know any of that stuff. I'll find out where I can get those assets and I'll go within the boundaries of my own superpower. Does that answer that question? That sounded like a little bit of an essay.
I dig it.
Can you dig it?
Redcoat Game is wondering, how much does your location matter in getting jobs at like major studios? Do they need to be in North America to go to some of those studios? Or if they have a strong portfolio, especially in today's world, right? Like, what are the opportunities?
I guess it depends on which field you're in. Now, I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was working with game programmers, we were teaching them how to build their own engines in C++. All right? That's all I will say. In North America, for example, if you know how to code your own game engine in C++, you have a 100% job acquisition rate because there are fewer game engine architects than there are jobs. Do you understand? So I would, for example, go over to the GDC when we were allowed to go places and high five people, and I would walk up to a booth and I'd say, hey, are you hiring? They say, no, we're not. And I say, yes, you are. And they say, what are you talking about? I said, well, I have 4 programmers who can build their own engines in C++. You know what they say to me? Right this way, sir. Every single time. So again, it depends on your superpower and your lane. But the most important thing, as Tom Shannon was mentioning, there's a community there. If you're part of the ArtStation community, they're all looking for jobs. They're all those forums, and there's even learning coming inside of ArtStation as well. Now, I saw that announcement this morning. You are going to be a part of the community that wants the same things as you. Engage with them. You can't, and this is one of a documentary that I saw by a student, Carly Cywink. And her dad in the documentary said, community is not going to come to you. You must go to community. That's the end of my answer.
Bold words. I love it.
Not for me.
So speaking of that, what's a good time now? Like, what are the best ways do you see people networking, especially while we're not going to conferences and you're able to walk up to the booth and be like, hey, I want a job, right? Like, where do you see people networking at least for the time being?
I see them networking the same way I tell my students. You're going to network based on what you can do. Nobody hires for you for what you can don't. That doesn't even make sense. They hire you for what you can do, right? So if you have some demonstrated skills, hey, look at this. There are competitions that run annually, like Ubisoft in Toronto. They run their Ubisoft Next competition, where they have contests for 3D artists, game designers, programmers, level designers. It expands every year. They give you the parameters, and the winner of that becomes an intern at their studio. This is stuff that's out there, but again, if you engage yourself with the community, you'll find these resources. Does that make sense? Some people can't fly, but some people have an internet connection. Yo, if they can see your work, they can see your worth.
Let's see. What else we got? Let's see. I don't have as many on topic.
While you're checking there, yeah, there's some off-topic stuff there. I think that for like the AAA studios, you know, the big ones that we all know and love, there is still a lot of value in in-person teamwork. So they will still very much value having employees on site.
Yes.
There's a certain creative energy that happens in the studio that it's difficult to emulate outside of that situation. So, you know, for a lot of creative jobs that are collaborative creative jobs, such as game making or filmmaking, I think that there's an increased ability for people to work remotely, but not every role. You know, certainly if you're working on a game design team on a live production game that has to go out every Friday, you know, every second counts. So being face to face next to everyone you're working with is essential for making that work. But there's lots of other positions that, you know, there's so many wild positions in gaming now, you know, from localization to legal to, you know, we have a whole documentation department because we have a tool. But by and large, I still think that the major studios at the AAA level still value in person and are still looking forward to that day that it happens again. But we'll be more accepting of remote positions for the right people.
Absolutely. On a random side note, you guys are going to watch the replay of this, but when each of you were talking, I was trying to direct my head down to pretend that I was looking down at you. You'll see it later. I don't know if you noticed I was my neck and a weird thing. Anyway, we're still live. I shouldn't have told you that. Okay, so are there any other questions?
No, I feel like we've gotten all the questions on topic. You're certainly welcome to, if you have other thoughts or things you'd like to share, feel free.
Yeah, you know what, I'll share a little too, because we were talking about sort of the job pipeline and all that. There's a really great program happening in specifically in California right now, but I think it's expanding nationally. There's a lot of funding for career and technical education and arts, media, and entertainment. And they've created this amazing arts, media, and entertainment workforce development initiative where they're working with major companies out in California to offer apprenticeships to students. But one of the cool things is, you know, it's obviously based on having learned a lot of these skills. So we're actually working directly with these schools and teachers to so that they can, you know, teach the skills required for kids to be, have the skills they need for these positions, and then build this portfolio to then be interviewed for these apprenticeships. And, you know, the apprenticeship program out there is even being subsidized by the government. So any, you know, company that's willing to take apprentices is the students or the apprentices are being paid by this government funding and perhaps supplemented by the company. But it's really amazing, that there's so much energy behind this program right now out there. So I'm hoping to see that expand across the country and be able to continue to offer that. It's primarily for kids ages 16 to 24. So it covers our high school and post-secondary community. And a lot of it's about alternate pathways for, not every kid's going to go to a 4-year college these days. So if we can get the kids these skills in high school, we set them up and they can get right out there, which is really exciting.
Man, y'all making me sad about my schooling, yo. Anyway, there's no time like the present.
Well, and we got some more questions coming in if you're ready for them.
I'm ready.
Fractured Fantasy was wondering, what is a specific skill set or area of knowledge that is most sought after in the industry right now? Or like what talents are we short on?
Programming.
We're just gonna leave it at that.
I think Tom would appreciate this, but I think technical artist is one of those highly sought after, and that is Tom is a professional technical artist, aren't you?
I have been known to tech art. It's happened before.
But that's definitely an area that is in demand.
Like that picture you showed
Animation,
earlier, right?
Yeah, like that picture.
I tech arted the heck out of that scene.
That is very technically arted.
There's not a pixel in that shot that I didn't tech art, I swear.
I like that verb, though. I'm going to use it. I'm going to add it to the roster. Go ahead.
But I would agree, programmers of all types, from gameplay programmers, just understanding object-oriented programming and programming structures, tool programmers, UI programmers, installer program. I mean, there's so many needs, and as all of these fields outside of games are adopting the game engines, they're starting to go, ooh, we could use a programmer too. So there's Unreal Engine programmer jobs at like GM. So if you live in Dearborn, you can work next door and do Unreal Engine programming for, auto manufacturer. So programming is huge. But then tech art in general, and we've said this for years, that's what we're seeing is that tech art mindset is really key, because the industry is moving so quickly that you need to understand the kind of how and why. Even if you're not a master of the art, you're a master of what the art might be or what it can be. And that flexibility and ability to use the tools for kind of a wide array of outputs is in huge demand. Hollywood, someone needs to know kind of at the same time how to install a plugin that gets their camera equipment working, but they also need to know why the frame rate's dropping. That's not a programmer. It's not an artist. It's someone that sits in between and really, really uses the tools. And those are in really high demand. And the real challenge is that it's very hard for schools to teach it, because you don't really know that you're a tech artist until you've been working for a little bit and you realize, hey, I'm really good at kind of the support role and combining these things together and making tools, or I really love making shaders that make things look amazing and everyone goes, ooh. And so for middle schoolers and high schoolers who are looking at their career path, it's very ambiguous. And they really are choosing between like programmer, artist, and designer, and that's because those are very easy to understand, and those are kind of the undergraduate programs. But as they're going into those and they're playing with the tools, when you realize, hey, I kind of like playing with kind of the tech side of this and pushing all the buttons or making some cool effect that no one's ever done. I made fluid dynamics in Unreal or whatever. You might be a tech artist. And that's a career that's in demand absolutely everywhere as well, in all of these industries.
So what I love about what you said, Tom Shannon, is I agree with all those things. However, the other thing I will add, what I tell we tell our students is you have to be able to articulate your process. how you're doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter what it is, but your ability to say, oh, this is how I do this, allows you. And when you're talking about dividing up the different areas that you can go into, for example, I can think of like 7 different types of designers. You know what I mean? Like there's game designer, mechanics designer, systems tools designer, all these different ones, writers, lore writers, different. I guess I wasn't naming designers there, but writers. Anyway, the chat's going to give me a hard time about that. Anyway, so it's an opportunity for you to, as I mentioned before, find out who you are within the context of this industry and be that, but also be able to articulate your process.
It's great. Right.
See, now
Ready
you
for the
do
It's
next
the
one?
number one job skill,
Party-
right? Communication.
Very key. Let's see. So AJ Podchaski is asking or commenting, I know there are specs for machines to run the engine, but are there layouts or recommendations for building labs specifically designed for teaching students and faculty not to only use the engine, but to share and expand the idea of streaming and producing audio and streaming as a product?
I feel like you should just come to our school. Who's
Should
that?
we
Who said
repeat the
that?
question? AJ Podchaski, great question.
Yo, AJ, are you coming? Are you in Toronto, yo? Come on out and come to the creative studio. I literally teach classes on that. Like, yo, you should just be my student. That's my answer. I'll teach you all that stuff. Oh, Amanda, if you expand this session to an hour, AJ, I can teach you that stuff right now. Please believe.
But do you have other anything we can point them to in not doing that in the next hour right now?
Yeah. So if you're thinking about getting into broadcasting, well, OBS is free. You can use that as well. It's what I'm using right now to come to you all and do this color corrected stream. But in terms of labs at your school, I'm not sure what the specs are, but really you need a machine that could run the Unreal Engine, and you need time, and you need an openness to figuring things out. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever ridden a bike before, but before you rode the bike, it was weird to put 2 feet in the air while one is at one level and one is at the other. You know what I mean? It's weird. But then after you know what I mean? But that's how it's like when you learn about the W, E, and R key inside of the Unreal Engine, be like, yo, I don't ever want to click on that button again. I just want to do it all. And Unreal Engine users, they know. And if you don't know, then cool. We'll teach you to become a member of that community via the tutorials that are there. The point of everything I'm saying is this. If you want to do something, do it. If you, how do I get started with the Unreal Engine? Get started with the Unreal Engine. You make an account, you go to learn Unreal Engine, and you type in basics. And there's a tutorial that will show you navigating around the engine. You eat that one, and you'll be like, ooh, I'm still hungry. Let me figure out something else. You got to do the work to become a member of the community. So, and it might be a situation, I sometimes have to do this. You learn something to explain to somebody else why it's necessary, because people want to hear process if they're connected from process, like modern day cell phone usage. Anyway, so when you're trying to approach administrators or peers, think about what your goals are and sort of what are the objective. I don't know if that answers your question. It's very tough to know what type of integration you meant. Are you talking about the building of a lab? Or are you talking about?
Yeah, I think it was about recommendations for layouts and building labs for teaching students and faculty. So.
I mean, some of it also, when you start also getting involved in esports in a school setting, a lot of that comes with it, because then what you have is, part of that should be the broadcasting studio area. And, I'll tell you, any cool esports lab is going to be very equipped for teaching these kind of skills, but definitely that, throwing in that broadcast area for shoutcasting and all of that, and then cross-purpose that for what you want to do with broadcasting and television stuff. I mean, a green screen could go a far way, and you don't need to get an LED wall in order to do some more of the production type stuff. So I think those kinds of things help you get set up.
Awesome. And they suggested if you'd like to go down to Florida, Chris, you're welcome to help them out.
What? Yo, I'm down. I just got an invite from Finland this morning, and now Florida. What-ta-ta-ta. That's an old Canadian show. Y'all know about that? Ew. Anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
From, you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. From You're Looking at Another, they're wondering, how do you handle deployment to devices when educating? So, if you're wanting to go to unique devices outside of the PC, do you have lots of them available? Are you doing it all remotely? What's your approach there?
What do you mean? A final project or just using the engine?
I guess that could be either way. Do you mean to
Yeah.
a classroom specifically, to a number of PCs, or to like mobile devices?
Because there are export options in Unreal for various platforms. But if you're talking about the deployment of the actual Unreal Engine, again, it's going to be limited the number of machines, what types of machines, and their processing power / other specs. I'm not sure if that answers the question for either of those, but it's tough to know.
And we do have some guidance on our documentation on how to distribute Unreal to lab computers. And I think there's also some documentation for Twinmotion as well.
Yes.
And Steve and I are currently working on improving both the documentation and the installation process in the lab. So I actually have a small setup here where I'm trying to simulate all of the pain points that y'all might come up with trying to get Unreal, out to hundreds of computers potentially, which is not typically how I use it. So we are looking at that. But yes, it is very much, I think an esports lab is a great
Yes.
template. A computer that can run esports at that level and do the video capture and all of that will be able to run the engine beautifully. So they run on a very similar spec, and I'm also very keen for game developers to understand the process of game playing in the modern world, because more and more gamers just by default kind of stream, and that's part of what playing a game is. So that's really key to that, for people to understand that on both ends.
Love it. Love it.
Cool.
Listen, folks, I don't mean to be that guy, but I have to return to my duties as a professor exactly in 2 minutes.
No.
They're waiting for me.
No.
Some of them are watching the stream like, sir, we know why you were late, but yo, I gotta go do my job. I promise not to be that guy. We got a
that's all
Discord.
good.
Yeah.
We can just, if you have additional questions for the team here or Dr. Chris Alexander, please toss them in the forum post for the event. We'll make sure to pass that around and we can reply to them there. We really, really appreciate all the questions today. They were absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Chris, for coming, Steve and Tom for joining us today. It has been an absolutely fantastic show. Would you like any final comments in your last couple of minutes?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I'm happy to come back whenever, if and when you need me, and I really appreciate you allowing me the chance to display and give me visibility. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again all so much for today, and stay tuned for all things Unreal Engine at insert social media site / or at Unreal Engine, and you'll find us, and stay tuned for all kinds of future fun streams. But that's all for this week. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Hi.
Bye.